Sydney's not too expensive, you're just too scared, bro. This is the 2025 property strategy they don't teach you. When I hear a lot of people say, hey Q, Sydney's too expensive, I'll be like, nah man, you're just undereducated, underleveraged, and you're just listening to your mate who owns 12k in ETFs and still lives with his mum in Campsie. The truth is, guys, Sydney isn't too far gone. You're just too late without a plan. And while millennials cry about affordability, the smart ones like my clients are using debt, data, and structure to bulldoze into the right suburbs. So if that hasn't got your attention, scroll away. But if you're watching in this video, we're gonna rip through the myth that Sydney is done and what the 2025 data actually says. These are the 5 city suburbs that I'll be talking about in this video that are winning hard at the moment. And also on top of that, I'll also list out the other 5 suburbs where the other people, the other losers, are bleeding equity. Also on top of that, I'll also talk about why shares are dead weight for serious investors, how gearing, debt strategy, and location still turn first-time buyers into billionaires. Also on top of that, I'll talk about real case studies from my clients, who nailed it and who blew it. And just like always in every video, I'll throw an expert quote from both sides of the Sydney debate so that I can be fully unbiased and present both views for you. So firstly guys, right off the bat, let's talk about Sydney's price dip. I don't know whether you missed it, but according to RP Data CoreLogic, the data shows Sydney prices are down just 1.4% from their peak. But as of July this month, they're already trending upwards. Domain's 2025 to 2026 data has forecasted to expect a 7% growth next year. The median house prices, you might ask, they're set to hit a $1.82 million. And according to Peter Monckton, who is the Bank of Queensland chief economist, he says, quote, a 10 to 15% price over the next 2 years is a reasonable bet because according to him, Sydney is still the barometer for national sentiment, end quote. But then against this idea, so I can offer you a balanced view, according to Lewis Christopher from SQM Research, he says that, quote, affordability in Sydney is at a generational low. Right now, it's a pressure cooker with no relief value for first-time buyers, end quote. So based on those two sides, let's talk about a client win. I have a client over here, Andy. He's 32 years old. And Michelle, she's 30 years old. Obviously not their real names, but real case studies. Now, these guys are both nurses earning $180,000 combined. In November 2024, they bought a 3-bedroom townhouse in Carlton, New South Wales for $1.1 million. The structure was we'll borrow 90% LVR because obviously they both earn over a certain limit, which allows them to have no mortgage insurance because they're both registered nurses. And the deposit they inputted was $110,000, no mortgage insurance. And this loan they picked was interest only for 5 years. What we also did was we paired it with a offset account, and after settlement, they parked like $40,000 to $50,000 in the offset account to offset the interest. Currently right now in June 2025, like last month, we revalued the home. It's now worth $1.26 million. And this is based on comparable sales in the area. If you just do simple maths, they made a gain of $160,000 in capital growth. And in terms of rough numbers, when you look at the rental yield, which they got 4% rental yield, plus the money in their offset account, their net holding costs after tax offsets is about $82 a week. So here's the lesson, guys. They picked a middle ring suburb with a train line, strong immigrant growth. For example, it's near Hurstville. And when they did their own research in this suburb, it has a less than 2% vacancy rate. And in hindsight, to look back when I worked with them last year, these guys, these couple, they came from TikTok. They watched my videos. They're the people that listen. They didn't time the market. They just timed their finance. They looked at what they can afford right now, what are the perks they can get from the banks, and then they just pull the trigger. So this is my take, guys. Sydney doesn't crash. Have you ever seen Sydney crash in the last 30 years? Me, never. Even during COVID, man, it just went up. It like skyrocketed. But a lot of you finance bros and girls will be like, oh, but then sometimes we see a correction. Yes. A correction is another term for, like, you know that, like, let me give you an example, like you're loading a bazooka, right? It's a time gap of you loading that bazooka. That bazooka is ready to launch again. Now, secondly, in this video, talking about bazookas, let's look at the 5 suburbs that's blowing up the market at the moment. According to CoreLogic median YOY, which is year-on-year growth, and by the way, this is June 2025 data, so I'm not making this crap up. Number 1 on the list is Dulwich Hill. It went up by 5.9% in capital growth. Next is Lane Cove. It went up by 4.7%. Third on the list is Monavale. It went up by 6.2%. And fourth on the list, which is where my office is located, Hurstville. It went up by 5.4%. Asians represent. And fifth on the list is Redfern. It went up by 5%. But then on the flip side, where the bazooka misses and like burns down village, These are the 5 worst suburbs you should not invest this year or next year. Number 1, Riverstone. It went down year on year by 1.6%. Like I'm talking about negative 1.6%. Next is Leppington, 0.8% negative. Number 3, Mount Druitt. It only went up by 0.3%. 50 Shades of Mount Druitt currently has a rental vacancy of 3.5%. Fourth on the list is Homebush West. It went down by minus 1.1%. And lastly, fifth on the list is Green Valley. It basically plateau. I don't know, I can't pronounce the word. But there's basically flat growth. Now, to support this idea, Eliza Owen from CoreLogic Australia, she says, quote, suburbs like Redfern, Dulwich Hill, they continue to attract investor activities due to gentrification and tight rental markets, end quote. And according to Dr. Andrew Wilson from My Housing Market, he also says, quote, the outer ring oversupplies remains a serious threat. Areas like Leppington and Riverstone may take years to absorb the current stock, end quote. Now, right now in this video, let's talk about a client loss. We have a client over here, Marcus, 29 years old. Obviously not his real name, but a real case study, just to protect the identity of these people. This guy over here, he's an accountant. He's earning $140,000. He bought a 2-bedroom off-the-plan townhouse in Leppington in late 2022 for $720,000. At the valuation completion in 2024, it was valued at $645,000. Now, mind you, this guy is an accountant. He is a CPA trained accountant. And obviously with the accounting profession, you can get a 90% LVR on a loan with no mortgage insurance. But even with that, the bank will only get 90% against the valuation, not the contract price. So he got 90% against $645,000, not $720,000. Even without me going through the whole maths, you can do your own simple maths. He made a massive negative loss. Not only did he didn't get the right valuation, he has to put more capital in on a negative property. And the lesson is here, guys. This old mate over here bought this off the plan based on marketing hype. Like, he basically told me, oh, Q, you know, when we were jumping on the phone, like last year, like I didn't tell him to buy, right? He just told me like, how can I fix this, right? Like, he told me he literally saw an ad on Facebook, went through the sales page and then the sales funnel, spoke to the real estate agent, which is a sales agent, and then got convinced to buy. And then I said to him, hey, well, did you look at the reviews? Yeah, I saw the reviews, like hundreds of reviews. I'm like, did you check whether the reviews are real? Oh, I didn't. You bought something based on Facebook. This is not Facebook Marketplace. You got to do your own due diligence. Look at the surrounding suburbs. Have any properties been sold for that price? And can you imagine in 2 years, that price will still hold its place? He was like, oh, I didn't do that. I'm like, bro, you're an accountant. But anyway, guys, last year I pulled him out the mess. That was the highest valuation I could get him. There were other valuations that were even worse. So what you can learn from this is when you buy something that's off the plan, I want you to research local vacancy rates. And back in Leppington, it was at 3.8%. It's a very high vacancy rate. And because it's such a relatively new suburb, there was no historical capital growth trends. So this is my take, guys, right? If your suburb that you want to buy in the future, if that suburb depends on a new Woolies opening or a new Costco opening just to get that capital growth, man, I'm telling you right now, you're already lost. Thirdly, guys, shares are for the risk averse and the wealth averse. To quote old mate Scott Pape, the author of The Barefoot Investor, he says, quote, shares provide a more liquid, tax-efficient investment vehicle for the passive investor, end quote. But to counter that from Christopher Joel from Coolabah Capital, he says, quote, yeah, shares are great if you have 30 years and an iron stomach, but property provides tangible leverage that shares can't touch, end quote. And right now, this is where I talk about a current client win. Her name's Emma. She's 33 years old. She's a graphic designer in Erskineville. Her income is $135,000 PAYG plus freelance under ABN. I helped her with a refinance on her existing property. We pulled out $90,000 equity from that unit that she bought in 2019. And then just last year, she bought a duplex site in South Coogee in 2024 for $2.1 million. We got her a loan at 85% LVR. She inputted $315,000 of deposit, and some of that were from the equity release. And we got her an interest-only loan. And for that single duplex, the bill cost was $890,000. Mind you, this was like last year. The completion date was just last 2 months, May 2025. Upon valuation today, it's now worth $2.7 million. And what's the lesson that you can learn from here? She didn't chase yield, but she chased feasibility. I mean, after all, she's a designer, but she had inside knowledge with a builder, which was her brother. And yes, a bit of connection over there, but in this life, it's who you know. So he provided her with the knowledge of the zoning, the build cap, and the end value before construction and buying that property. So guys, with that example, this is my take. I mean, shares are good, right? But like in an example of a car, shares are like seatbelts. And in terms of property, that is the engine of the car. And let me ask you this, which one moves you forward? Fourthly, guys, in this video, gearing is what actually separates the winners from the scrollers. To quote Stephen Moretti, the author from Low Rates, High Returns, he says that, quote, most Aussies feel more comfortable borrowing against their property. It's this leverage that explains why it outperforms over time, end quote. But against this rhetoric, we have Sally Tyndall from Rate City. She says, quote, borrowing to invest in a rising rate environment is reckless unless the income can service the debt, end quote. Now, moving on to the fifth part of this video, which I'll be talking about, we're going to talk about how you should know the property cycle or otherwise get eaten up by it. Now, to quote Nicola Powell from Domain, she says that, quote, Sydney's A-grade housing is in the short supply. The next growth wave will come from tightly held inner and middle rings, end quote. And along with this insider tip, we have Tim Lawless from CoreLogic RP Data. He says, quote, we're seeing a two-speed recovery. We have C-grade stock that will continue to underperform and drag down averages, end quote. So yeah, guys, when the pollies say, oh, Sydney's unaffordable, but then you see the mobs in Canberra pump billions into metro tunnels in the east, and then on the other side, we have banks that are cautious, but then they just approved a $1.1 trillion combined mortgage amount in the last financial year, we're seeing what the government and institution is saying is different to what the actions are being performed behind the scenes. I mean, according to AMP Capital's economist Shane Oliver, he calls out the BS for what it is. He says, quote, housing affordability is a political slogan. Investor logic ignores the noise and reads the data, end quote. And guys, this is my savage take, right? If you're not investing with data, according to Shane Oliver, which is the chief economist of AMP and all the other economists that I follow, you're just basically gambling with hope. So guys, if you're watching to the end of this video, I want to say Sydney isn't just out of reach. I personally think it's just out of reach for people without a plan. So guys, here's what you should do. I personally want you, without financial advice, I want you to use debt like a tool, structure it like a business, and on top of that, study the cycles and suburbs. And if you want more information on this, I suggest you book a 15-minute strategy call or a 60-minute deep dive with me for me to build a holistic A-game lending solution for you and for me to connect you with my financial planners, my accountants, and my respected buyer's agent for you to build generational wealth and end the generational curse in your family. But hey, if you're not ready, just hit the like button, hit the follow button if you like more videos like this, and most importantly, smash the share button, share this to your mate because knowledge is power. And until next time, I'll see you in another episode of That Property Grows.